we are.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. We're now live. So welcome to the Social Justice and Advocacy's team event tonight. We're so excited and thankful for all of you guys joining tonight. So I wanted to first take a moment to acknowledge that today is World Food Day Eve. So tomorrow is World Food Day. And the United Nations Organization's Food and Agriculture Association was established on the 16th of October in 1945. So that's where we get World Food Day. And every year it's commemorated on the day with a new theme and advocacy objective to create some awareness about problems surrounding world hunger and food insecurity. So I look forward to following that programming tomorrow. So I think that it's really cool timing that tonight we can all be together to kind of get us started this topic. So now I'm going to pass things off to Matthew and he'll introduce himself.
Hey, so my name is Matthew. I go by he, him, his. I'm a sophomore at DePaul studying secondary history education. And today we're going to be talking about food insecurity. And I wanted you guys to go into this just already thinking some questions of like, what do you already know about food insecurity? And then what do you hope to learn? Because today we're hoping to have like a little bit of discussion if we can with what we have at the end. I know we just type questions in at the chat as they come along. We'll answer them towards the end. But yeah, that's about that. Karen?
Yes, thank you, Matthew. So my name is Kara and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm a junior studying public relations and advertising and peace, justice, conflict studies. And I'm the advocacy assistant for this year.
Okay, so to start us off with CCM events, we always start with a prayer. So we have this prayer from CRS that we're just going to say today. God of compassion, Pope Francis challenges us to learn how to cry, to brave that pain, and so enter into true solidarity with your people, for those who face hunger, for those who face war, for those who face exploitation, for those who face displacement. I stand in solidarity. For those who face unjust discrimination, for those who face indifference, for those who face a lack of opportunity, for those who face a lack of health care, I stand in solidarity. But in truth, I stand a little reluctantly, and I stand a little far off, detached and apart from the great human drama, lingering in the orchestra even as you call him to the center stage. Lord, help me to look again at what has been done to your peoples, to their lives and to their dignity, so that slowly and then more strongly, I will allow myself to cry, for it is only in those tears we truly become one. My trepidations fall away, and I step forward and stand anew. Teach me to cry. Amen.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in. So first of all, a little background on what is food insecurity. So the USA Department of Agriculture defines food insecurity as being a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life. So food insecurity may be a long-term thing or temporary through periods of life. So it can be either episodic or cyclical. So episodic refers to a time period that someone could be experiencing food insecurity. So someone may require assistance for a single period of time for a few months or on a regular basis. So for example, if someone were to lose their source of income suddenly, that could be an example of time that someone was experiencing episodic food insecurity. And cyclical food insecurity refers to a bigger cycle, but both are considered parts of the complex definition of food insecurity. So, what are some influencing factors that contribute to food insecurity? So, food insecurity can be influenced by a number of different things, including income, employment, race, ethnicity, and disability. The most common risk for food insecurity increases when money to buy food is limited or not available. And a lot of times, also, neighborhood conditions can affect physical access to food. For example, people that live in different areas, like rural or urban areas or low income neighborhoods, may have limited access to full service supermarkets or grocery stores. And oftentimes, these different neighborhoods, there's often racial disparities between neighborhoods that have more access to full supermarkets than other neighborhoods. So communities that lack affordable and nutritious foods, this is a big term that kind of goes hand in hand with food insecurity. These places are known as food deserts. So in areas known as food deserts, it's more common that instead of full service supermarkets or grocery stores, there are instead convenience stores and more small independent stores that's the closest thing to where people can easily access food. So at these stores, they may have higher food prices, lower quality of foods, and a lower selection of foods than these bigger supermarkets or grocery stores. So, this is a really big problem and a big contributor to food insecurity because a big part of the food insecurity definition is access to healthy foods. And so, transportation and long distance between supermarkets and residential areas is a very big contributor. So, this graph on the side kind of refers to how oftentimes households are described as being either food secure or food insecure. So there's this kind of breaks down the different levels, even though it's kind of a generalization of saying like this group is food insecure, well, this group isn't. This kind of shows down more of the breakdown of getting to each of the steps. But like I said, this is more of a generalization. So, marginal food security on the side there. It says households had problems or anxiety at times about accessing adequate food, but the quality and quantity were not substantially reduced. So, that is still a sense of security, but food insecurity is those two lower parts of the graph, that these are ongoing, long, consistent problems. And then this last point on the slide here refers to that there's not just one face of food insecurity. It impacts every community in the United States. However, food insecurity does disproportionately affect people of color. So now that we know what food insecurity is, we're now going to look at a little more statistics. So, like I mentioned, it's a national issue in the United States. It doesn't just affect one single area. So the map up on the right-hand corner kind of shows the different regions in the United States and if it ranks below average or on the average of this scale of food insecurity. And according to the US Census, 1 in 10 Americans will experience food insecurity. And according to a study done in 2020, they project that 54 million people may experience food insecurity in 2020, and also including a potential 18 million children due to the effects of the pandemic. So that's about 16% of the country's population. And then this other graph kind of shows these multidimensional issues and contributors to food insecurity. And if you look at the graph, it shows the prevalence by just different household characteristics, considering the region. So at the lower part of that graph, it shows what the upper one is, the breakdown of regions. It's also showing one of the biggest contributing factors is the income and poverty ratio, then also race and ethnicity, and household composition. So single families versus more than one providing in source of income. So a lot of these factors cross over, but they are big contributors to where we get these numbers and statistics.
Thanks, Kara, for getting us through the introduction to this. And now I want to have us look more into Chicago as we're talking about food insecurity. And I have this quote from the Chicago Food Bank. And they say, "Hunger is what you feel when you don't have enough to eat. Food insecurity is the set of circumstances that prevent your access to food." And with Chicago here, the image that I have set up for us today, this comes also from the Chicago Food Bank. They work a lot on helping with food insecurity in Chicago. And what they have here is a map of poverty in Chicago. And what you can see is poverty and food insecurity a lot of times will come hand in hand, having lack to money, will obviously mean that you don't have the resources necessary to get the food that you need. But also with this, if you can go to the next slide, I wanted us to look at was also, as Kara's pointing out, the racial disparity between food insecurity in Chicago. So on the image on the right, what I have set up for us, it is a map of the racial layout of Chicago. So the pink is going to be for white residents, the blue represents Black residents of Chicago, and the orange represents Latino residents, and the green represents Asian residents. And if you look at the two maps together, you'll see a disproportionate amount of people of color being in poverty in Chicago, and also then this meaning to in Chicago, people of color will face a lot more in food insecurity. The numbers roughly for the Chicago Food Bank provides is that it's nearly 20% more likely for a person of color to face food insecurity. And because of this, also with the impacts of COVID-19, a lot of places that people could have gotten food from, especially if it be food banks or like soup kitchens, those have a lot part shut down a lot of times. Sorry, my cat's being a mess. Kara, to the next one, please. And then, so for when looking at COVID-19 in Chicago, with when talking about food insecurity, within Chicago, food insecurity is, and the risk of contracting and dying of COVID-19 go hand in hand a lot of the times with it, or just being more at risk for food insecurity. So the overall amount annual food insecurity increased to 15% from 2020 to 2018. And when you look at the map also where it was, you can see in the areas where in the last map we saw there being a disproportionate amount of poverty with people of color, you also see a disproportionate amount of people contracting and dying of COVID-19 as well in Chicago. So we're seeing that this food insecurity is going hand in hand with having a lack of resources as well. So not only are people not able to get food, they're also not able to get the resources they need because of this. That they might have to not go to like get medicine or go get treatment because they need to get food, because they need to like feed their kids. And seeing of children, the child food insecurity in Chicago projected increased to 20% in 2020 because of COVID-19, despite Chicago attempting to have schools still provide lunches and some breakfasts for students who require those lunches to have a meal every day. A lot of time, we're seeing in Chicago still a lot of children are starting to now be going into food insecurity and aren't able to get the resources that they need to have the meals that they need. Yeah, with COVID-19 as well, I already talked about how a lot of the food pantries are closing down. Well, not close, but are halting their businesses. Even at our parish at DePaul, we saw that we had to cut back some of the days as well, only doing 3 days now. And this will lead me into our guest speaker that we have today. We brought Rick Moreci today to speak with us. He works the food pantry at DePaul for students, and I'll just toss it off to him.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Matthew and Kara, for inviting me to be part of this. And thank you for putting on this session on this really important topic. When Matthew reached out to me specifically to ask if I can kind of talk a little bit about the history of the food pantry that we have set up for students at the university, I was excited to be able to come and just sort of share part of my experience and the experience of some other people that got us to this point. So I think what I'd like to do, and it really builds, some of the things that I have to say really build off of the information that Matthew and Kara have just shared with you all, because, food securities among college students in general is also very high. I've seen a statistic as high as 47% of college students across the country will experience or could experience food insecurity at some point in their college career. It doesn't mean that they're food insecure the whole time. As Kara was saying, that can be sometimes episodic. So it can be, not not necessarily cyclical or, again, a permanent issue that a student is dealing with, but it can be happening to them either from time to time or on shorter temporary basis. But either way, it is an issue. And for our students at DePaul, our a huge part of our mission, as I'm sure many people watching this know, is our service to others. And certainly that is never more important than the way in which we serve our students. So to give you some history, I'd have to start a couple years ago, actually, when myself and a few colleagues at DePaul began kind of talking about the possibility of setting up a food pantry for the students, specifically at the university at DePaul. We knew that there was already a food pantry that was available, and Matthew just talked about that a little bit, at our parish, at the church, St. Vincent Church. And that pantry has served and continues to serve the entire sort of Lincoln Park community. So it is not specifically a DePaul food pantry. Our students have been and continue to be invited to take part or take advantage of the resources available at that pantry. But what we learned is that we didn't have a pantry that was just specific for our students. What we also learned in doing some just research and having conversations with people is that our students didn't always necessarily feel as comfortable as maybe they could in going to the parish pantry, because it's a very public pantry, and there are other, as I said, other members of the community that do not have any affiliation with DePaul that are also going, which is a great thing. But also there's this level of sort of confidentiality that I think our students felt was being lost. And so one of the things that, when we started talking about this idea of setting up a pantry on campus, one of the things that we talked about having as a feature of the pantry is this level of confidentiality, and having students feel comfortable and secure in going into this pantry to get what they needed, to fulfill their needs, and to take full advantage of this resource. So what we did was kind of just continue to have conversations among each other. We started involving more people. We certainly involved people from CCM, Mission and Ministry, the parish, Dean of Students Office, and all of that. And we ultimately, kind of came to this idea that we could set up a pantry on campus that we could make available more frequently also to the students. The parish pantry, which again is a great resource, is only open once a week. And so we wanted to make this a little bit more available to our students who are either who are on campus regularly, semi-regularly, so that we could reach kind of our entire population. Part of my role, which I probably should have started with, I apologize, but part of my role on campus, my title is I'm the director of student housing, dining, and student centers. And I tell you that because it's the dining connection and the student center connection specifically, as part of my role, that has kind of helped me and motivated me and given me so much passion to help kind of get this initiative off the ground. So I started working with our food provider, which is Chartwell's. And they and I spent about a year, and again, others as well, other peers at DePaul, were all kind of helping with this initiative. And we started talking about how we could make this happen and how we could set it up and how we could make sure that we were constantly stocking the pantry so that if a student needed this resource, that it would be there for them and be available to them and they would be able to get what they need. So fast forward a little bit. So lots of planning, lots of time went into kind of discussing what this would look like, and also focusing on this confidentiality piece, which I'm going to kind of get to in a moment. So we ultimately found a location in the student center. I'm going to be honest, it was a storage room that we were able to empty out and convert into a pantry. Our pantry is not huge. I don't think it's super, super tiny, but it's definitely modest in size. So it's up on the third floor of the Lincoln Park Student Center. And what we ended up doing, so then we started having conversations about, okay, what will this look like in terms of being open to students, available? Do we need to staff it? And we ultimately decided not to do that. So we put and DePaul students will certainly understand this, but we put a swipe reader on the door of the pantry, and we gave access to that reader, to that door, to every single enrolled DePaul student. So as long as you are taking at least one class at DePaul, as any kind of student, undergraduate, graduate, law, doesn't matter, you have access to this pantry located in the student center. And this allowed this confidentiality piece to really take shape, because what that means is that a student can kind of privately experience the pantry in their time and in the way that they need it. Now, definitely it's possible that someone could be in the pantry and another student could walk in, and I'm certain that has happened, but the reality is it's still pretty much behind closed doors, and I think students feel a different level of comfort without feeling like they have to check in with someone to say, oh, I'm here to use the pantry, or feel like someone's watching, what they're taking, because that's not our goal. And I think this has worked really well, because I think no matter what, the students that are accessing the pantry are students who truly need the pantry, and that's exactly what it's there for. I believe that students are very much using the honor system. I think students take what they need and take only what they need. They know that they can come back as often as they like. There is no limit to how many times, even in a day or a week, that you can use the pantry. So, fast forward again to February of this year, February 2020. Very early in February, I think the very first week of February, which is about a month into the winter quarter for the DePaul students watching this, they know. That is when we first opened the pantry. And we opened the pantry, we had it open 3 days a week. So that's when students would be, when it first opened, it was open 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's when students during that time frame could access the pantry and the resources available. I talked about the fact that Chartwell's, our food provider, is our partner in this pantry. They are actually the ones that are providing the food, helping us create a good mix of, good yummy snack food and also healthy food and health bars and things that have a lot of nutrition. When we first opened the pantry, we just had non-perishable food items only, stuff that's dry stock on the shelves. Nothing, no produce or anything like that. We still don't have that because we need to make sure that all the food that we're serving is safe. And we do have standards, according to the city, that we need to adhere to. So we did that. And then probably a couple weeks in, maybe a month in, we added a freezer up in the space, up in the pantry, where we were able to have some more, meal type items that were frozen. There are a couple different microwaves located in the student center. So if students needed to, if they wanted to get like kind of a meal there or something like Hot Pockets, stuff like that we had, they could even eat it in the student center if they so desired. So that was all great. And as I said, I can't stress enough how wonderful it's been to work with Chartwell's, because they've really been a partner, not only in terms of helping with the day-to-day and the stocking and the ordering of the food, but also financially. They are a very big contributor, like donator, financial resources to the pantry. And that has been really, really amazing. So lots of things, goes out to our partner. And I should have probably, let me just back up a little bit. The students themselves also are big contributors to the pantry. So for the whole year that I talked about that we were planning before the pantry even opened, we were allowing students, and particularly residential students who have meal plans, to donate at the end of each quarter some of their leftover meals, which we then turned into actual financial like budget dollars. And that was actually the very first money that we ever had in our food pantry budget. So actually, this initiative really got off the ground because of the donations and the charity that our own students gave towards the pantry. So as we got into this past winter quarter, obviously we all know what happened. COVID hit in March, right before the end of winter quarter, and most of our students were sent home, and essentially the campus closed. There were a few students that were still on campus, and as a result, we still kept a residence hall open. That's important because we also kept the student center open. And one of the things that was important to me and to other administrators at DePaul, all the way up to our president, was that we keep the pantry open throughout the entire spring quarter, even though most of the campus was shut down. So through all of spring quarter and through all of summer, though in limited hours, just because the building hours were limited, every hour that the building was open, the pantry was open. And let me tell you, I mean, Matthew was talking to you a little bit about the relationship between COVID and food insecurity, and that could not be more true. There were so many, more, I think, of our students that were experiencing hardship as a result of maybe not being able to work and, all of the other things that sort of this pandemic brought on. But the other thing that happened is that the generosity of people almost astonished me. Like, I started getting contacted by people I didn't know, never heard of, but they knew that I was somehow associated with the pantry, wanting to know how they could donate, where they could send money. They knew that DePaul had a food pantry, and they wanted to make sure that our students were taken care of. So it was just this really amazing outpouring of hope and generosity. And I even got, in the summer, I was contacted by our advancement team, which are the people who raise money for the university. And they said, look, we want to have a page for the pantry. We want to have an actual, like, have the pantry be its own cause that we can raise money for. And I was like, that's wonderful. I don't want to say money was pouring in, but in some ways it was. I was shocked how quickly, when that went up on the website, money was coming in to put into our budget to be able to maintain the pantry and keep it going. We even got a very significant donor who donated over $10,000 this summer to the pantry. And so the point of all of this, and as I start to wrap up here, is to say that even though the pantry hasn't been around very long, less than a year, it in some ways, I feel like it hasn't even been given its full opportunity to really be a known resource for students, because we've had such this up and down roller coaster of, not that many students on campus, but still having students in the Chicago area who are local or who are living in off-campus apartments who still need to access those resources. And those resources have been there the whole time and continue to be there. Now that we're in the fall quarter, the pantry is open. It is still in its third floor location. It's open now 3 days a week. It is open Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for students to be able to access that resource. And we hope, if you're hearing this and you are ever experiencing any level of food insecurity, whether it be more permanent or more temporary, please, please, please feel free to come and partake in the resources that are available through the pantry. I think this is just a really wonderful thing that DePaul is doing. And as you can see, I'm very excited about it. So it's been really great to just be able to talk about it. So thank you again for allowing me to, be part of this really great topic.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Rick, for that. And right now, for any viewers, if anyone has any questions, I know right now we can, any questions for Rick, we can answer them right now. If anyone has any they want to put in the chat. If not, though, then that's okay. We can always move along, and if they come up, then we can answer them later. think we have any. So, okay, then Kara, we can take it away then with the next bit to this.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you so much again, Rick, for sharing. That was a lot of great information. And some other stuff that you could do to help is, so I guess a question I have before, well, I'll let Rick you speak a little more of how could people watching or people um, like curious about the resources in the food pantry, how could people get involved if they wanted to like donate? How would that look like? Or if you, I know you touched on that, but if you could just reiterate that.
No, that's great. I'm not even sure if I touched on it enough. So thanks for asking me that question. You know, right now there's kind of two ways in which people can support the food pantry. One way is the page that I did refer to. That is a kind of a financial resource that's up on. If I'm trying to remember, it's Inspire DePaul, and there are several smaller kind of categories of different. Things that you can donate to, and the food pantry is one of them. So if someone was so inclined to financially give to the food pantry, they can do that, and I can get you that. I'll put that web link in the chat before we leave. And then the other thing that people can do that I get asked a lot is if people can actually bring food, and that's absolutely acceptable as well. We accept any food donations as long as it's non-perishable and not expired. And people can do that by simply bringing it to the student center. You don't need any kind of an appointment. Our entrance to the building right now is actually located at the corner of Belden and Kenmore. So that's the kind of the door into the building that we're using, and people can, drop off a couple bags of food, whatever they want, and we will definitely put it in the pantry. So again, just please nothing fresh or anything that can spoil too quickly.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then another thing that you could be involved in at the specific DePaul community is, I think we mentioned this before, but the Mother's Seton Food Pantry and Sandwich Kitchen, well, operation did shut down for a little bit. It is up and running again with limited hours. So if you're interested in finding more information about that or potentially volunteering yourself, you can contact Nelson, and his email's up here for more information of getting involved in scheduling logistics. Nelson's awesome. He works on our advocacy team too, and he's done a great job of facilitating all that. So if you're interested in more information, definitely reach out to him. And then some other things you can do besides donating or volunteering time and hours if you don't have access to actually get out there. I know a lot of us are kind of stuck in our homes for now, but a lot of things you can do is just learning and informing yourself on these issues, and participating in things like this is a great way to start and bringing awareness to your community. And then another thing is you can urge Congress to support these policies to strengthen pandemic relief and just food insecurity in general. So this is just one example of many sites and resources like this. So this is a advocacy group called No Kid Hungry, and they have on their website a already filled out template. You just need to put your name and like maybe an email, and they have a pre-written little message for you, and it is most effective if you go in and kind of change why you're passionate about this, why you think this needs to be a thing for legislators to support. So it's really good to be on people that have a position to influence change and provide some of this relief, because it's a very large issue and very important to address. So there's a lot of great resources out there, and feel free to reach out to local politicians too and write up your own thing. But it's nice to follow these templates to get a feel for how to do that. And we'll send that link out too.
Yep, I already put the link into the comment section if you want to do this one. Yeah.
Weird, I can't see the comments.
That's okay. But I did put it up there. I do highly recommend reaching out to congressmen through emails is a very effective way of being able to let them know what you want to have happen and making sure that your voice is heard. As you know, right now it's been roughly 150 days since the last Corona relief bill, if I'm not mistaken. And right now in Congress, it's still on the Senate floor for hearings for the next Corona bill. Right now, they're instead doing the Senate hearing for the new Supreme Court justice. So I highly, if you can, definitely reach out to your congressman and urge them to take action on COVID right now, as mortgages are coming up, rent are things, and just general food insecurity are problems that are affecting people right now, and we need the Corona relief bill to make sure that includes stuff like this now. So for this last bit here, we wanted to offer some a time for if anyone had any questions and they want to ask them, they can do so in the chat. And we also wanted to leave you guys with some reflection questions. We just want you guys to be able to ask these questions to yourself of like, with what you've learned here, how can you connect it to problems affecting your community and those around you? And what are things you can be, or what are things you can be or now more aware of, knowing the seriousness of food insecurity? And just, we find that learning and having information about stuff is good, but also doing reflection afterwards is a great way to go more deeper into a subject and better understand it as well. Sorry, I'm just reading the comment here. Okay, so, but if anyone at this time had any questions right now, or want any questions, just we can have them up. Rick is also here as well. Let me have Rick up here. Yeah. I guess with Rick, one question I did have, do you know about other schools? Do other schools offer the same food pantry like at DePaul? Or how is this looking at Chicago for college students?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matthew. I mean, when we were in the process of kind of getting ready to get this set up, that's exactly what we did. We reached out to some of our kind of peer schools. I talked to people at Loyola. I talked to people at Northern Illinois, both my alma mater, so that was easy. But they both have pantries. I know a couple of other schools do too. And they kind of vary, you know, I mean, in terms of how we set it up, it's not exactly the same way. Like I think Loyola does almost like an online store. So students can go and, you know, kind of select the items that they want, and then they'll prepare like a bag for them and have that prepared, which is actually a great idea for during COVID. But I think they've been doing it like that for a while. And then NIU is much more of a public, you know, their space is a little bit bigger than ours, but it's also, you know, kind of like they have a lot of volunteers. I think we're just getting ours off the ground. Like we're seeing what works. I know that in order for this to be successful into the future, we're going to need the help and support of some of our students to help, you know, manage the pantry. And I know a lot of students have volunteered, but like I said, we were only a month and a half in before kind of we started dealing with the pandemic. So I think once things got back to a more sense of normalcy, we're going to have those opportunities. So yeah, absolutely. It is though encouraging to see that other schools, you know, nationwide really, but also, you know, in the area are doing something similar.
Thank you for that. Father.
And Matthew, I'm having a hard time posting a public comment, but I did give you in the private chat, I gave you the link for the contribution page.
Okay, that should be, yep, there it is up there now. I'll show it on the big screen right there. This link right here, Rick, you said this is to donate to the food pantry, right?
This is if you want to donate financially. If you want to donate money, this would be the place that you could do that. Okay. And all of those proceeds go 100% back into the pantry itself.
Yeah. Okay. Kara, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I guess my last question for you, Rick, would be, you've mentioned great ways that people can contribute financially or donations for people that might not have the resources to be able to contribute that are still looking to get involved. Are you guys currently looking for, I know with COVID, everything's complicated, but looking for like time or volunteering?
Yeah, such a great question. We're not right now, not from lack of wanting that help or assistance, but it's just there's we're still getting visitors to come to the pantry, and that's great. But certainly, it's significantly less than I think we would probably normally have if we were kind of fully operational. And so we just don't. There's just not a lot we need. You know, we fill the pantry probably once a week, once every couple weeks, just to make sure all the shelves are full and product is there and available. But there's just not a lot to do right now. We just kind of need to keep it open, and that's what we're doing. But again, once we kind of come back and have more students back on campus, we're definitely going to need help, and we will definitely be reaching out.
Okay. If there's no more questions and I don't see any coming in on the comments, then I guess we can wrap things up then for today. Rick, I'd just like to thank you again for coming on here and speaking with us and telling us so much about the food pantry here at DePaul and just giving us so much insight. Oh, wait, I did get one from Julie. Julie's asking, how did DePaul get Chartwell's to partner with the food pantry? What was that process like?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks, Julie. It's helpful that Chartwell's has been such a great partner with DePaul. We have a good working relationship, and I think that the ask was a pretty easy one, to get them involved. Chartwell's also contractually has some different sort of placeholders in the contract where they provide charitable contributions, and it was really easy to kind of re-streamline that and put those at some of those resources. Some of those resources still go to student organizations. We didn't really take away from anything else. We just sort of realigned it, and we're able to put some of that financial support behind the pantry. And again, the process was simple because when I had the manager of our DePaul account from Chartwell's as part of the planning team, because he was also super invested, and it was just really easy for us to we were working together really from day one. So from there, it just sort of blossomed. But that's a great question.
Thank you for that. And the Father Dan's question, yes, I can make sure that the link gets up for donating to the food pantry. I'll put that up. Okay. I think that's about it then. Unless any others come up, but Rick, again, thanks for coming. Thanks for talking about it. Thank you, Kara. Again, amazing work that you did for this presentation. And yeah, I guess that will.
Everyone, thanks to everyone watching. And if you have any questions that come up later, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we can follow up on the CCM Facebook group with any more resources or response to any questions that come up. Or yeah, just don't be strangers, reach out.
And thank you both again for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk about this because it's an important topic. So thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's great to learn about everything.
All right.